Hi everyone, today we're looking at a Game Boy Color and Game Boy Flash card called the ElCheapo SD by BennVenn. Let's get started. So it's a pretty good cartridge. It's in a kind of reproduction shell, this transparent shell. It looks pretty nice. It's not quite as nice printing, but none of the kind of third-party shells are as the original shells. But it's quite nice to see the circuit board inside. You can kind of see lots of chips on here. It's got some gold pins, so it means it's not going to get dirty all the time or wear through pretty quickly. Here you can see it's where the SD card goes in here. It's a bit fiddly getting it in and out, so ideally get all your ROMs onto that SD card in one go. But that's pretty much how this works. You put your ROMs onto the SD card on your computer and you then plug it into here when you're ready to go. It also has a button here which is to enable saves, but we'll kind of plug it all in, get it working and show you how it works. So get your Game Boy or your Game Boy Advanced or your Game Boy Color, plug it in, turn it on, and you'll get the standard kind of Nintendo logo come up. Then you'll see a BennVenn logo, and when it does, press start and it'll go into the menu system. So the menu system on this, if you've ever used a flash card for maybe your Game Boy Advance or your DS before, they usually have pretty snazzy menus for choosing your ROMs. The one on here is pretty basic and a little bit clunky, but I think that's not really BennVenn's fault, that's limits of the Game Boy hardware. But it did confuse me a little bit. So it starts off here with this directory at the top and you can navigate through different choices here. If your ROMs are at the kind of root directory, you can just go straight to GB ROM or GB Color ROM. But I've got mine in folders, like I said, to organise them. So I need to choose directory, press A, find the directory, GB in my case, press A again. And this is where it confused me. I then expected it to list all the ROMs here, but it doesn't. I've then got to go back to that original menu by pressing start, and then I can change this to GB ROM, and if I press A now, then all my ROMs appear. So you get used to it, it's fine to use. I haven't found a way to page through these yet, so you kind of have to go through, find all your ROMs. You'll fit every Game Boy ROM pretty much on a 2 gig, 4 gig SD card. The SD card does need to be formatted in FAT32, but other than that, just you don't need a massively large one, so don't waste one. So really how these work and how all flash cards work is that when I press A here, it's going to load from the SD card my ROM, my game into the memory on the cartridge, and the cartridge will effectively become that game. So I'm going to press on that. You'll see here it says erasing, and then it counts through as it's writing to the memory on the Game Boy in hexadecimal. In this case, it's got 16 blocks to write. And as soon as it's done that, you'll see it will reboot. There we go, back to the BennVenn logo. This time I don't press start, I just press A. If there's a save file, it will load it. If there isn't one yet, it will create it. And then it will do one last reset, and then from that point onwards, as far as the Game Boy is concerned, it's the original cartridge. So you'll see Kirby load up. There you go. So it plays just like the original Game Boy game, because it is the original Game Boy game. There's no emulation or anything involved here. Straight ahead. But obviously games like Kirby don't have any save built in. Now Kirby's a relatively easy game, so that's not a problem maybe, but if you want to break, you've just got to leave it on pause and hope your batteries don't die or plug in a mains lead. But thankfully BennVenn's ElCheapo has this button at the back. This is for saves, so if I press it to enable saves, you may see the screen flash. It does on some ROMs. There we are, so it's enabled saves now. Now all we have to do when we want to make a save, so if I just do it here maybe, is press select and down. You'll see it went black for a second there as it did its save. So now if I continue the game, let's run into some baddies and get myself hurt a bit. I've lost some health or something or other, or I lost a life, or the game was over. I can now just recall my save by pressing select and up. There you go, back where we were. It only does one save, but that will get you through any games you're really getting stuck on or don't have their own kind of saves built into it. Now, some games don't support this straight away. Some of them have some problems. I've had some problems with things like just the Super Mario Land, for example. And I believe there are ways to modify those ROMs so they work better with the save. So I'll put a link to BennVenn's site where he tells you kind of more about that. And that will hopefully mean that you get higher compatibility. But most of them it works in. Most that I've tried, it's absolutely fine in, and it's nice to be able to do that. But the really critical thing is, at the moment, that save is not actually saved back to the SD card. If I powered off now, the save would not be there. So what you have to do when you're finished that game and you want to make sure that save is committed back to the SD card is hold down the button on the back again. So if I hold it down for a few seconds. All right, that should have now saved it. I think it slightly corrupted it maybe, so I could see that it should have now saved it back to the SD card, and it's reset. I should better turn off, turn back on again. And I don't have to go through the menu system this time because it's already got Kirby saved onto it, so it'll just go straight to reading the save. So now if I press select and up, once I've enabled saves again, there we go, there's our save. So it's really good compatibility. I think there are some ROMs it has problems with. I really haven't had any. I certainly had no problems playing anything yet. It works just as well, whether it's in a Game Boy or a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color. Anything that played the original ROMs on the Game Boy, it's absolutely brilliant in. So you've got colour when you put it into a colour capable device, and it's loading into Kirby. There you go, straight in. So I think it's a brilliant device. Didn't take too long to arrive from Australia. It's definitely cheaper than the everdrives that I've seen out there, and it just means you can play everything on real hardware, but you can carry one cartridge around rather than carrying a million of these around with you, which you might do at the moment in a case or something. It's really convenient for that, but also for those games you're really getting stuck on, being able to use the save features is brilliant. So I'd highly recommend one. I'll put the links down below to BennVenn's site and you can go and have a look. But thank you for watching today. If you've got any questions, add them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. That's all for now.